Okay, this is a out of focus. This thing is just focus where I want you to focus, please. Okay, let's hope it stays there. All right, this is a Guild Contemporary Series Cv-2, which is the maple and Adirondack spruce top ebony fretboard. The COs and the CVs and the CDs, which are the dreads, are the CDs. The CVs are like the Grand Auditorium, 16-inch lower bout. The COs are more the, I guess, concert or auditorium with the 15 and a half lower bout. So yeah, so a lot of these guitars have been having a lot of problems with the necks, all kinds of stories that go behind it. I'm going to share what my experience is and what I'm going to do to fix it. Okay, this is the most reoccurring issue that I've seen, and I call it the dreaded hump in the top. We've seen a lot of guitars over the years. I mean, you and I and everybody else who plays them, that always had the notorious 14 fret hump, and of course the necks weren't put on right to the top and all that stuff, and that's caused that hump in the fretboard on a lot of guitars back in the day, and probably still do in some models today. I guess you can say that this is one of those, but for a different reason. First off, that these are bolt-on necks, and Guild has a graphite neck block joint system that's in here, and what we have is the neck block. Can I see it? I don't know if I can get a light in there if you can see it with the video. I'll try to poorly zoom in. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can zoom. Won't zoom. All right, you can kind of make it out there. See, it's a precast little neck block system. All right, on the top there's okay, stay. Don't move. Stay. It's moving. It's moving on its own. You can see there's a hump here. Well, what there is there's a spacer in between the top and the neck block itself. Why? I'm not overly sure. Anywho, in one aspect I've seen where it looked like it was a solid, like shimmer spacer that goes the whole length of the neck block on top, underneath the top, right? I guess I'm saying. In what looks like in this case and in the other one that I repaired is that there was two separate pieces. There was like a piece here, and then there was a piece added from like this point to the actual neck joint itself on both sides. This hump is because that spacer they put in there, or shim, whatever you want to call it, was too thick. So they never really tried to size it right, and they just jammed it in there, or put it in there and then just laid the top, of course, on top of it and just let it go. So I've seen, this is the most reoccurring issue that I've seen with these. Problems with this is there's two graphite rails, I think, on the fingerboard, and there's one, or is there two also on the neck, or is it vice versa? I forget. Anyways, there's graphite like little guide rails on the neck joint itself and the fingerboard. They can't really be adjusted. I don't think they really made this to have any type of real neck adjustment to them. Once you start changing the angle of the neck, of course, even like with the dovetails, you start to get you start to create gaps because you're pulling surfaces away from each other. In this case, a neck adjustment is not needed because, luckily for me, and to whomever I sell it to, if I ever do sell it, the neck angle, which I'm going to slide over here. Bear with me. It's right there. It's about a 1/16 of an inch underneath there. It's pretty perfect right there. So I'm not going to have to adjust the angle, which is good. Now, there's 2 bolts that screw down the fretboard extension to the top. And what is some of the issues that are happening is, besides getting the fret buzz, that's not too bad there, but it is there. What's weird is because it's not on everyone, it kind of leads you to believe it's the frets, but not really so much. The hump on this side is actually worse than the hump on the other side. And of course that's kind of creating a little bit of a wobble right there. We can fix all that. Issues with the screws, which, things that can happen, are in some cases people have messed with them, or they could have came from the factory that way. I'm not sure. It could have came from the repair place if it's got a red tag on it, MRIC, whatever. Sometimes they forget to put the screws back in. I mean, the washers, excuse me, that go along the screws that protect it from the bottom. And even with those, which I'm hoping this one has, the washers, when they try to force the fretboard down, you're pulling that stuff up. You're pulling that stuff up. Oh, let me get the camera right. You're pulling that stuff up through the top. I mean, spruce, Adirondack, either way, it's soft. And if you over crank those two trying to get this fretboard to mount, you're just ripping right into the dang wood, and eventually it'll pull right through the top. So you don't really want to mess with that. Other issues are, of course, is if you're forcing this down, you're putting stress on, and ebony's not too good at taking stress. It's hard one way, but very brittle the other. You're starting to cause an issue right here at the joint itself. This is pretty good mating. So that looks like the angle or the joint itself right here where the neck is actually making contact with the body is good. The problem starts to happen between the body and the, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th fret. And once you start to pull down, once you start to pull down on this, you're seesawing this. You're pulling this up, and this is going to start causing stress cracks in the joint, or in the banding, the fretboard itself and the body of the neck, and it'll start working its way back. Eventually, it could separate the fingerboard, depending on how it goes and how bad it gets. So overall, everything's good. There's no cracks here that I can tell. Usually you'll see like a little white line that is starting to fracture. Okay, so repair, what we're going to do. If, once I take it apart, everything looks right, and it is the issue that I'm believing it to be, what I do with my little green ruler, I'll just give you an idea with this. I took some pictures of it with the same thing. It's the only thing I got, but I don't want to scratch the top, so this little plastic thing. You can see, and of course it's blurry now. There it goes. You can see where the angle starts to drop. Actually, if you look right here and down, see how it's angling down? And then if you come up to the edge of the end of the fretboard and rock it down that way, you can see the gap underneath it there. So the other side is not quite as bad, but there's a little wave underneath it here. So what we'll do is we'll remove the neck, and as I said, if everything looks good, what I'll do is, of course, I'll tape off the edges directly underneath the banding, and we'll just start removing some wood off the top itself to level that out. Now what that'll do is we'll take that hump out, and the fretboard will be actually able to sit flush like it was meant to, but you'll see a little bit of the fretboard, kind of sink into the top a little bit. So, if you look from here, the banding will start to get a little thinner right in this area and then come back out to full. But that is a much better look than leaving this alone and trying to change the angle, because once you start changing the neck angle, then you're going to have to worry about shims on the underside if you want a solid mating surface, which I prefer. And you would also end up, in most cases, putting a shim underneath the fretboard, which I think doesn't look too good. So my fix is, be it outside the box, will look more natural. So let's hope it goes that way. I'll be sending some pics along in a thread I'm doing on Let's Talk Guild. So we'll see how the repair goes and just go along with it. All right, thanks.